I have been putting this off too long. I want to talk about cables, specifically power cables, and more specifically power cables from a company called Wireworld. They are based in Florida. They've been there forever, nice people. And I'm using power cables as, I believe in cables in general, but I think it's easier for cable skeptics, for cable deniers to, well, the ones that are open-minded about it, to hear the difference with power cables. So I asked Wireworld to send me 3 sets of cables, affordable, a little more, and a little more. And I did comparisons of those. But I basically started and spent the most time with their least expensive power cable, well, the one that I have, because they actually make less expensive ones. But the least expensive one that I got is called Aurora 7. It's $140 a meter, $200 for 2 meters. I stuck it in my system. I didn't compare it back and forth to the stock cables, because previous to that I used dead standard AC cables that come with the equipment. And I put it in the system. I thought I heard some differences, but I just wanted to leave it there for a while, I think 4 or 5 days, and then take it out and go back to the stock cable and see what I heard. And I heard significant differences in space, detail, airiness, space definition. Yeah, was it huge? Was my jaw on the floor? No, but it was definitely there. It was definitely noticeable, definitely worth a $200 upgrade over a standard cable. Now, I want to take a detour, by the way, and there's more noise today from out on the streets of Brooklyn than usual, and I apologize for that. But I want to tell you a story about a customer that I had years ago. I used to be a salesman, and I had a customer, very, very wealthy man, who had lots of really expensive audio from me, but he never, ever, ever bought expensive cables. His cables looked like these. You know these, the free ones that come with really cheap stuff. He had $100,000, $150,000 system. His interconnect cables looked like this, and his speaker cables were, you know, lamp cord that you can buy in a hardware store for 10 cents a foot. He laughed about it. He said, "Yeah, don't try to sell me that." And I said, "I'm not going to try to sell you anything. I mean, if you don't want it, you don't want it." And you know what? I'm here to tell you his system sounded great. With the freebie cables, with lamp cord, no problem. His system sounded really, really good. So I'm not saying you need to use expensive cables. Your system can sound great without expensive cables. I would never say otherwise. But I just want to broach the idea that possibly upgrading to better cables could make a worthwhile difference. So for today, I'm not going to cover speaker cables, interconnect cables, digital cables, just power cables, and just these 3 from Wireworld. The one I mentioned earlier, the Aurora 7, that's the blue cable, $140 a meter. Also the Electra 7, which is $240 a meter, and the silver Electra 7, which is $450 a meter. And I heard improvements every step of the way, those 2 other steps, but I'm here to tell you that the biggest difference I heard was going from the stock cable to the Aurora 7, the $140 cable. Now, my methodology for this review is the sort that I put the cable in, the Aurora 7, into the system. I didn't go back and forth between the stock cable and the Aurora cable. I just listened to the Aurora, and I noticed that there was some difference in clarity and stuff like that. But I just wanted to get used to the Aurora 7. I wanted that to become the new normal, and listen to that for a while, and then pull it out of the system, go back to the stock cable. And that's the moment of truth. When I used to sell cables, I used to recommend this idea to people. Don't switch back and forth when you get the cable, or pretty much any product, really, even with speakers or amplifiers. Just live with the new thing and hold off on comparisons till later. So yeah, when I pulled out the Aurora 7 and I went back to the stock cable, that was the moment of truth. And the sound was grayer, just duller, less leading edge, less air, less space. So the difference is that the power cables make, in my experience, is, well, if I put one word on it, I would call it focus. The sound seems more cleanly focused. I'm hearing more space. I use the word space in a lot of reviews. And by that I mean the space that the musicians are playing in, assuming it was any kind of a real space, as opposed to a totally dead studio that doesn't have any sound to itself. But in churches and concert halls and stuff like that, that sense of hearing the musicians playing in a space and hearing let's say, the spaces between the musician, the image focus, that's what I think power cables and cables in general can give you more of. Sometimes I would say it's akin to getting a better power amplifier, a better preamplifier, a better DAC. It's that kind of difference of hearing space, clarity, definition, focus. That's what you get. Another side issue here, I want to make clear that moving forward, when I review electronics, I will only use the stock cable unless otherwise noted, right? Because I don't want to confuse what it is I'm describing with the cable or the thing. No, I'm always going to use the stock cable unless I say otherwise. And but in terms of my own system, and when I'm not taking notes for reviews, I may be dabbling in putting power cables in just to get a fix on what's happening. But no, I will stick with stock cables for the most part for my reviews. But this review was all about cables. So yes, I spent some time comparing Aurora 7 to Electra 7 to Silver Electra 7. And as I moved up, I heard more of what I described. But not just, well, there was more weight to the sound as I moved up to those more expensive cables. The bass was more impactful. I wouldn't say it went deeper, but the deeper part of the bass was more focused and together sounding. That was kind of really, really exciting because it was like changing electronics. It's the sort of difference I expect to hear as I change a power amplifier, for example. Things were going along swimmingly, so I decided to switch over from the Past Labs XA25 power amp to another power amp, a tube one. It's from Felix Audio. It's a Polish company. They make this killer 300B amp. It's called Arioso 300B tube amplifier. And I did the same comparisons between the stock cable and the three Wireworld cables, and heard, if anything, even bigger differences. Now this is a 300B single-ended tube amplifier. It puts out 8 watts a channel. Now I'm using the Cornwall 4 speakers. They're really easy to drive, so 8 watts is not an issue. But it was remarkable between those 3 cables how I really felt that those 8 watts seemed to go further. They seem to have a little more grunt, especially the Silver Electra 7. Unfortunately, well, the way it works out, the most expensive cable. But still, the bottom end grunt, heft, weight was better with the Silver Electra 7 feeding that amplifier. So then I moved the cables through the rest of the system. I had 5 power cables to mix and match. And I used them in the rest of the system, the Past Labs XP30 preamplifier, the Denafreps Terminator DAC, Jay's Audio CD Transport, and I think those were the mixing and matching that I did. Anyway, and I heard similar differences as I added more and more cables. But that first impression of with the power amplifier was the strongest. So yeah, maybe it doesn't. I'm not suggesting that you should, cable your entire system with power cables from the get-go. No, start with one cable. And I would recommend starting with a power amplifier. Some say it should actually start with a source component like a DAC. That works too. But the combinations are endless, so you got to start somewhere. I say start with a power amplifier and see how that works, and then swap it around to the other parts of your system. And if you're hearing differences, take it from there. So I think we've done it. So yes, if you've had direct experience with cables, not your feelings about cables or you think it's bullshit, just what you've experienced in real life in your system over time, please share your impressions in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you guys. whether you had good experiences or bad experiences, it's all worth talking about. But only if you've had, I would appreciate it, direct experience. That's what counts here. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. If you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. You can hit that button right down there. That's where you get it. And but wait, that's not it. One more thing. You'll see this little notification bell appear, and if you hit that, you'll be notified every time there's an amazing new episode of this incredible program. You could also follow me on Twitter at AudiophiliacMan, and also on Instagram at steve.guttenberg. And I'm making some videos just for IGTV, sort of just rants, basically. But you should also check out the Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/audiophiliac. But while you're here, hey, check out some playlists. There's playlists for speaker reviews and headphone reviews and electronics reviews, plus interviews. Lots and lots and lots and lots of interviews. Anyway, I think I'm going to cut the spieling down right now to just say thank you again for watching. And I really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.